Morning. I call this meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Audit Committee to order. Because a quorum of the board is present, if anyone would like to make a public comment on any of the action items on the Audit Committee's agenda, you're welcome to do so at this time. There are none, then we will move on to item 1. Consider approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2021 Audit Committee meeting. Members, those were sent out to us in our board book. Are there any needs for edits? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move approve as presented.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, receive IT vulnerability assessment report. Mr. Hayden.
Chairman Sanders, members of the Audit Committee, Dr. Knoll, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We'll start off with the vulnerability assessment that was done back in November, December of 2020. This is really the first time that internal audit's been heavily involved just in the review. We were asked to be part of this just for an independence, just for a third party to be looking at everything. And so they hired True North. They came in and looked at 4 areas, which is the external vulnerability testing, firewall, connected building, Internet of Things, and web application vulnerability. And the results from an internal audit point of view, with all the different schools, all the different platforms, all the different apps, all the moving parts, is excellent. I mean, I think that it really showed that Terry and his group are really doing a good job of keeping us safe from those types of threats. They really didn't find anything terrible or anything that we really were going to have to really be concerned about. Terry and his group have started remediating what they did find, and they're moving on that. And so from internal audit point of view, we're really happy with how the assessment went and the remediation part. So if you have any questions, Terry's here to answer.
I have a question. So I know that at the beginning of the year, when we decided to go remote, and we had to go, everything was online, I know we had some issues early on where we were kind of getting hacked, or someone was getting into the system and basically shutting it down. Was this vulnerability assessment, did we do this in November because of that, or is this something that we do?
No, it's something that we do
We
on a
do
regular
any-
basis. Yeah.
This is the annual thing that we do.
Yeah.
It's an annual thing that you do? Okay. Okay, and so, I mean, the obvious question is what are the chances of something like that happening again if we continue to have, even if we are allowed to have some type of online school? Have we fixed that with the software that you purchased earlier this year or last year?
Not going too deep in the weeds because we are in a public forum. We have
Yeah, if you can come to the mic, that way folks that are on the recording can hear you.
not going too deep in the weeds since we are in a public forum. We have implemented some, I don't want to say countermeasures, but some devices to alleviate what we saw earlier in the first semester.
And when I say hacked, I don't mean hacked into
Yes.
the information, but just it was shutting down. They were flooding it. So
I would say attacked is an
Attacked, yeah,
appropriate
that's probably
term,
a better
right?
way to
Yeah, it's
Yes.
denial of service.
Yeah.
And those are common cyber techniques of those criminals out there. Every system, including our own companies, we are constantly bombarded with these types of attacks. And I think the assessment proved, I saw no high-risk findings, no medium-risk findings, low risk, but things that could be improved upon. And I saw those are being taken care of, and it seemed to me that everything looked good. Ms. Chase, you may want to add something to being in that field. Do you see, I assume, a lot of IT audit reports, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of the major enterprise risks out there is how you keep your data secure, how you keep your network secure. So I thought it was a good audit report, and it reflected very well on how we've set up our system and how we manage and how we secure it. I did have one question, since this is a recurring audit, each year we get it. Were there any recommendations that, for this year, that we also had for last year?
They put some on there that we don't really agree with, and we noted those in the
Yeah,
remediation
okay.
report, because it might be best practice for somewhere else, but it's not practical for what we do here.
Right.
But I'd be happy to go over those with you at a later time if you'd like.
Okay.
And as I read, it seemed like those were in contrast to our vendor recommendations. Is that correct? Those that you disagreed with?
Yes.
From what I read in the report,
Yes.
it seemed like the vendor had recommended something as opposed to what the audit report suggested.
Right, because again, it might not be practical, and we have reasoning for why
Correct.
we have something set a certain way.
Gotcha, okay, all right.
None of that institute any type of high risk or medium risk.
Absolutely.
It's just based on user best practices. And
Okay, all right. Any other
We were
questions?
super pleased with the report also.
I have a comment, but not a question. This is very timely because we've just seen this week neighboring district that is dealing with some issues.
Yes.
And just want to commend you and your department for all of your proactive measures so that we're not facing those same situations, because we know the threat is out there. So want to thank you for keeping our data safe.
I appreciate it.
And I don't know if our neighboring district's issue was, on the technology vulnerability, or if it was a user issue. We're not
Not
sure.
sure, right.
Certainly Terry is doing their part, but we also yesterday in our principals meeting had a conversation with our users to talk about password security and all of the things that we need to do on the user level to make sure that we're not doing something as users that compromise the integrity of the system either. So we updated and had that conversation yesterday with all of our people.
How often do you guys have that conversation?
Often, but, certainly it gets pushed. I mean, when you see an example of somebody having a problem, it brings it to the forefront.
Yeah.
We are pretty, just teachers in general, educators in general, we're used to protecting data. We're used to not saving passwords and leaving our computers open and those kind of things because of the nature of the information that's available to us. So we are good at that. Yesterday's reminder was more about, not linking a lot of different things, and so that if somebody is able to access one thing, they just accessed 10
Sure.
and can get out there and do a lot of damage quickly. So that was really what yesterday's reminder was about,
Yeah.
and not writing down passwords and not using simple passwords and all of the things that we just have to be reminded of sometimes to keep us
For sure.
from doing
I
it.
mean, you have your, controlled environment, but you also have your people.
Right.
Who sometimes take data out of controlled environment, or, bad actors are getting pretty sophisticated now with phishing and spoofing, and we always have to be at the top of our game. So
Right.
it's good that you guys are doing that consistent reminder out there.
Absolutely.
Other questions, comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry.
Next item is to review the internal audit work plan and schedule of work and work completed to date for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
All right, moving on to the 2021 audit plan. As I'm sure Stacy knows, no audit plan ever survives the year intact. And this year's no different. So the child nutrition audit that we had planned on doing has been moved to next year because they just finished an audit from the Department of Agriculture of Texas. It's pointless to make them go through that pain again. So we'll just move it to next year. We've moved up to Flex 20 construction audit. It's 75% done, so this is a good time to hit that. What's nice, and I know Chairman Sanders and I talked about this, the outsourcing model that we use, now we don't have to use them because we've done one, we've got that experience, we've got that work program, now we can do that on our own, save money, and still do a great job on it.
Mr. Hayden, is the Texas Department of Agriculture audit, is that something that is coordinated through internal audit?
No.
No? Okay, okay. Do you get a copy of that report?
I have not seen a copy of the report yet. I
Okay.
don't even know
Okay.
if it's done yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just, okay, I just wondered because
We'll be
if,
happy to bring it to the audit committee.
well, or just funnel it through Mr. Hayden, and if there's anything that Mr. Hayden feels like our committee needs to see, I think that's,
Because it's definitely
That's
something that we
appropriate.
would want to see for the next audit.
absolutely, well, that's what I was thinking. It's gonna help him next year.
Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can drive maybe some risk areas if there are any.
The other thing we'll do once construction audit is complete is do the PEMS, which was the attendance, and the band instrument follow-up. So those are going to be very detailed follow-ups because there were some issues involved. So we want to make sure that we've really got that nailed. Activity funds, we're moving along. Another high school, Conroe High, knocked out. We are working on Grand Oaks right now, so we are on schedule for getting everything done. Transportation audit. So we just completed that. Worked with Sam and his group. They were terrific. Really worked great with us and so helpful. We did find some areas for improvement. They have what's called a Pro Key. So it's this fob, basically, that you put at the gas pump and allows you then to put gas in your vehicle. And you have to input the number of miles because there's some parameters that you shouldn't have gone over these miles to fill up. What we found was that there was the Pro Key mileage is being overridden for various reasons, and there was no log of why this was happening, who was doing it, and so we asked them to look at the vendor to see if they had a program built into the system, which they do not, which kind of surprised me. So now they're going to do a manual log, but just that way you've got the data that you can go back and say, okay, what are all the reasons? Was there one person constantly asking for this? I mean, you need that data for that control, especially of refueling. So, security at the transportation centers needs to be reviewed. Driver credentials, such as the CDL and the physicals, they weren't being tracked and updated in a timely basis. And then when I know Chairman Sanders had wanted to make sure that we did inventories as part of our audit plan. So we did, and what we noticed is but we noticed obsolete inventory sitting out there that the people walking us through said, hey, we haven't used this in 10 years. So what we're suggesting is that the next time they do a yearly inventory, is that they make sure that they know what they're not going to use, work with a financial group to come up with a plan for how we're going to deal with that. Any questions on the transportation audit? Sam's here if you need any details.
I thought it was a good report. I was amazed at the size of our transportation system, ranked number one, I guess.
We're number one in area.
In area, right.
By far.
Right.
348
square miles.
Yeah, and I think our closest is 189.
What?
That shows you the difference. And that our cost per mile is second lowest, which is amazing, and that's a testament again to
I think,
Sam
again, that was a great
and his
operational
department.
efficiency to show, Mr. Davila. Thank you for the hard work that you do each and every day. It's not unnoticed, and I want you to know that by the committee here.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Okay.
So as I discussed before, I'm working on the Flex 20, and those are the items that we look at. We get from the contractor a big old detailed cost report, and we just go through that and tick and tie. And I tell you, That's why I said internal audit's exciting. But it's really good. I mean, we're spending, $30 million. We want to make sure that all that money is being adequately tracked and confirmed and validated. And that is it. Any other questions for internal audit?
Question, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean
Go ahead.
to, go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to ask, I know the last time we did a construction audit, we used an outside consultant, and we kind of found just practices. It wasn't that there were findings of misuse of or misapplication of funds, but more of practices of billing and how things were being done. Are you finding, and this is probably a different contractor than last time that's building the building, but are you finding anything similar, or are we
In fact-
fixing what we
So-
found as practices maybe that needed to be
Yeah.
fixed?
So before, they just had to upload everything onto OneDrive, all the documents. Now, they've got this thing called Project Mate. And everything from the contractor and us, we all have that same database. So I'm able to go in now, look at an invoice, look at a change order, and then it shows, it tracks the approval process, the date, who approved it. And so far, every invoice, every change order was approved before they started billing for it. So that's a real improvement from the last one.
Great,
And I
great.
think that just having that database all in one spot is really helpful, especially for internal audit.
Absolutely.
So that, for sure. I'm kind of getting ready to move in more to the change order part, so
Sure.
I'll have more. at the
That's all,
next
that's really what I was
But that-
interested in. I know
they're
that
definitely
the data
approving-
was hard to coordinate last time.
meeting. Right, so they
Okay.
are approving before they're paying.
Good, all right, thank you.
Maybe it's a little bit of a follow-up, and I don't know if this is the right question, because I don't know if, well, let me just ask it. So I'm building a home right now, and they're starting to deliver some appliances and stuff, and my contractor said, you better have this stuff locked up, which made me think, well, we have to self-police our own stuff. I'm just curious, whenever we're at the construction sites, and when high-value items are being delivered, I know they're being signed off and ordered, but do we have any type of security system that watches that until it's actually installed, or do we have an audit that makes sure that what arrived is there the next day, or any of that kind of stuff?
So they do have video surveillance at the sites. I haven't gotten into that part.
Is that ever really that big of an issue? I mean, do we have that under control?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'll do in the audit is make sure that what they say they delivered and is stored is actually there.
Mhm.
So I'll do a walkthrough and, because they should have on that day, here's what's just being stored, like chairs, cabinetry, things like that. So yeah, we'll do a walkthrough and make sure that that is actually there.
And then the construction manager really has that level of responsibility as well, because within the contract, let's say at a high school or at an elementary, we're going to pay for 197 door frames. So if 150 get delivered and stolen, that's on the contractor. We're only going to pay for 197, and when the building's built, there needs to be 197 in the building, so we'll
Okay.
go back and check that. So that is part of what Easy does, is go through to make sure that we're not being double billed for, different items that would be in the building, that we're not paying for more than what we're actually getting. So that security and that site really kind of falls back on the
Construction. Okay.
General
construction
contractor.
manager at risk. There is an at-risk piece of that, and that's part of where they have to manage
Okay.
their site as well. And most of them have not only video, but they'll have on-site security as well, because when you're talking about building a building like that, that's a $20-30 million, you get to a high school, $150 million. It's the most expensive property in the area by far, and so they have to protect it.
Other questions, comments? All right. Next item is just to confirm our next scheduled audit committee meeting, Wednesday, May the 12th at 7:30 a.m. any other business for us today? If not, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Sanders.
Thank you, everybody.